Pastor McMaster, welcome back to Talking the Talk with the Great Southern Brain Fart.
Nice. That was a good intro.
Before we get started too much, tell me a little bit more about this Church of Disaster. I've been fascinated since I read about it.
It's nothing to get too excited about. There's no church. I'm not religious. Around 2001, some friends of mine out of Dallas came with the idea that I was the one that they wanted me to marry them. They wanted me to be the official. And I was like, get out of town. Y'all are crazy. How do you do that? That's crazy. I'm not a priest, blah, 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 blah. Just being not even thinking of that, wow, that's, and then I started to think, wow, that's kind of an honor that they thought about me, that they want me to be there, like standing on the altar with them to, sacrifice a goat or whatever. And so the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, that's pretty sweet of them to think of me that way as, Uncle Jason or whatever, to want to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I did it. I went to Dallas, and it was at the Hard Rock Cafe, and they had rented the place, and we had a little shindig, and it was real light. They did shots right there on the pulpit, and we like toasted to the gods of rock, and I made the grandparents nervous, and it was perfect.
You make me want to do this myself because this sounds awesome.
Well, here's the deal: is I guarantee people who are ordained the same way that I've been ordained, and it's just on the internet. You fill out a form. It's called universallifechurch.com or whatever. It's in Modesto. And I swear it's just some thing that some biker dudes came up with or something to get out of their taxes.
That's badass though.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. But I don't use it for my taxes. I do charge a little bit because, why not?
I mean, why not? You're going to pay a fucking priest or something, you know what I mean? Like, hell, man, I'd rather pay Jason McMaster, dude.
Well, give them, and you can give them a deal if they're your friends, and I really only like to do it for my friends. So, I've done quite a few of them.
So do you get like decked out in the collar and everything, or,
Nah, fuck that. I just wear leather pants and a Slayer shirt.
As matrimonial as it can be, right?
It's kind of important to me. Well, I've done some stuffy ones, where they want me to talk about Jesus and God and all that, and that's fine because I'm cool with whatever your bag is, but I don't feel comfortable doing that because I don't believe that. So
that's actually really cool because that kind of does lead into another topic that first off, I had a great time talking to you here in Atlanta, and I wish we'd have had more time to sit and chat, which is why I wanted to do this. But you've always been a fascinating person to me because, at least until, the internet and your website where you have a pretty extensive bio, really all I knew about you as a kid was that you sang for Watchtower, and this was really a cool opportunity for me to get to know you more as a person. And one of the things that struck me, what you just said, is about how, you basically are not a religious person. Neither am I. How long have you been that way? And what was it that led you to be that?
I think that there's some spirituality. And if anyone understands, how to treat a human being and with respect and realizes the 10 Commandments are just common sense, and if you're still an asshole, you're not religious either.
Oh, but, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I think that there's a lot of shitbird people out there that self-righteous kind of thing in that way, and in a religious sense that, but they're still cheaters and thieves and everything. They just wear a collar and stand on the pulpit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree.
It's always been that. Yeah, it's always been that way, and that's terrible. But if that's the show they want to put on, that and people fall for it, that's great. But I really do believe that if you're a strong person, I feel like you you've been in love, you've lost love, you've had to talk to a child about death, when their puppy gets run over, But if you're an asshole and you can't understand how to do that with someone and go through the emotions with that person, your understanding is deeper than all. It's bigger than anything. And that's the spirituality that I believe in, is how you treat people.
It's just being humane is what it is, because
that's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's exactly right. I think that the fellowship of people is really more important than putting on a show. That's why I like rock and roll so much, because it's this anything goes attitude, but the idea is to emotionally go on this ride through sound and visual. And I guess a church is not any different than a venue or a club or a party. You know what I mean?
No, I totally know what you mean.
Yeah. Like we were just at church. Rocklanta was church. So
yeah. I mean, I grew up in going to Catholic school from kindergarten through 9th grade, and growing up Catholic and being raised Catholic has probably produced more atheists than anything on the planet. Do you know what I mean? Because you're kind of driven your whole life into this belief that, like you said, that like, oh, there's commandments and there's things, and then when they tell you things like, oh, if you're gay, you're going to burn in hell. And I say, well, you know what? My uncle's gay and I love him and he's one of the best guys I know. What about him? And then they say, God makes exceptions. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not buying this, and I feel like
that's a perfect excuse.
Oh yeah. And I feel like the day that I denounced just Christianity in general and the fact that there was, and just said, you know what, there's no God. I'm not going to worship anything. I'm going to just be the best guy I can be, best person, whatever. That my life got so much better and so less stressful.
Yeah, man.
People spend most of their lives trying to absolve themselves with the promise of going to heaven, that they're shitty people 95% of the time. Whereas like people like you and me, especially you, I feel like you're the kind of guy that's like a good guy 99% of the time without that, without doing it for any ulterior motive other than just being a good person because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect.
Right.
I'm no more deserving than anybody else. I think that when I found music, it just became my religion, and I didn't really care about anything else. And I know that sounds kind of shitty.
No, it actually doesn't, because kind of to touch on what you said about a rock concert not being much different than going to church or whatever, after, seeing you guys just this past weekend for the first time since '94, where I've seen you guys probably 5 times before that. When I heard Queen of the Nile, I was in tears. You know what I mean? Because that moved me. That was a spiritual moment for me, because music does that to me and does it to a lot of people. There's a lot of things that are tied in with music, that emotions, memories, whether they be good or bad, and nostalgia and whatnot. And so, as corny as it sounds, like I said, like when you guys started into Queen of the Nile, I just literally teared up because, well, for one, it's a beautiful song, and for two, that was a song that held a really strong memory for me, and so I'm like, you know what, I'd rather go to the Church of Dangerous Toys than have to deal with some other bullshit that's like self-righteous, like you have to choose between heaven and hell. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that everyone should have the right to, do whatever they want to do, as long as they're not hurting themselves and they are not thinking of themselves every moment of the day. I mean, giving some back is very important.
Oh, absolutely. Even if it's just, like you said, even if it's just a conversation or attention to someone, one of the things I've really tried to do over the past couple of years is to be kind of an advocate for mental health. Because I deal with, obsessiveness and things like that, and I take meds, and I realize what a stigma there is to it. And so I talk about it on Facebook whenever I have issues or whatever. And
Oh, that's good, man.
and people come forward and they say that, and I appreciate that. But I tell them, I say, I don't do it for recognition or for accolades. It's like I do it because, again, similar to like rock and roll, if it's something you're passionate about and that you want to share and you want other people to be involved, someone's got to be a voice for it. If I want someone to listen to one of my favorite bands that no one's ever heard, if no one's talking about it, God damn it, I got to talk about it. And so that's kind of wrapped up in that.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that just overall, if you're paying attention even about half the time, you're probably all right. So, if you're awake half the day and you've done a couple of good deeds, that's a good day. You're all right.
My dad, even as Catholic as he was, rest in peace. He passed away about almost 7 years ago. I think I told you that story about him laughing over sporting a Woody. But he used to tell me all the time. He said, if you can go to bed at night and close your eyes and just think to yourself, I was a good guy today. I wasn't perfect, but I was good. He said, you'll live a good life, man.
That's stone carving worthy. That's pretty good.
I mean,
it's that whole chestnut, how do you sleep at night? Very well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that I'm a spaz and I have to take meds because I insomnia and shit though. But you know what? I go to bed every night with a good conscience. You know what I mean? Because I feel
that's good.
But again, like
Don, you're an intelligent human being. It doesn't matter what issues you have. Right. You're smart. You went to school. You wore the shoes, you drank the punch, you tried on everything that your parents wanted you to try on, and until you found your own way, that's even more sign of intelligence. You made your own way. Something else saved you. I mean, your parents didn't go, hey, listen to Van Halen, you'll feel better. But somehow you did, and you did. So, that's a thing. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, because, unlike most of my peers, even though I was raised Catholic, I also was raised by parents who were very much open-minded and who were very...
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were, or at least my dad more so than my mom, because, of course, dads tend to be like that, is that he was very involved in the music that I listened to. And...
Oh, good.
Mainly because he liked music, but he was always curious, like, oh, I want to hear what this band sounds like. I always thought it was so funny that my dad was like, oh, Ozzy, oh, he sounds great, much better than that shit he did with Black Sabbath. You know what I mean? Or that he would be like, Wasp, that's terrible. You need to take that record back, But you know what I mean? Like he was, I was raised in a household where I was kind of allowed to make those, like you said, have those findings.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't. A lot of people our age grew up without that offering. Without that independence from our guardians and our parents. If someone said you're not bringing that Kiss record in the house, that's a bummer for them. It doesn't sound like their parents trusted them enough to be able to be a good person, to make their own decisions as to what was right and what was wrong, or to realize that horror movies are not real, because that's all rock and roll is it's this fantasy, even though the lyrics are usually the content is usually about what young people are struggling with, and that's why lyricists write songs about sex and drugs and dealing. Part of it's escape, and part of it is just kind of psychobabble in order to deal with something that maybe they either made a bad decision about one time and it came back at them, and it's an experience they can share. Or, like I said, it's almost originally a song about nothing, but you can read between the lines and it's actually something there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and so, kind of speaking of, it seems like you kind of grew up in a household where music was acceptable, or am I incorrect with that? Were your parents pretty supportive of you pursuing music?
Yes, my mother especially. my mother and her friends knew I was going to be weird. I was pretty different from my other brothers. I have 3 brothers, and we were all into rock music, and we were all into skateboarding and surfing and all kinds of hippie shit. But at the same time, I was always told, you're odd, Jason. It's a little weird, and I was real shy and everything too. So we could, but yes, in the long run, very, very liberal. My dad was a little bit old fashioned. That's fine. That's totally fine. And, he didn't understand that I wanted to dedicate my life to the evil rock and roll music. And, he got over it when I sent him a gold record. Here's my diploma. I know I quit high school, but here's my diploma. And he was blown away and didn't understand how that worked until, that happened. And, so anyway, yeah, it's huge support from my family, my brothers, my parents. And, I still feel very blessed and very lucky that, that I got to break out in music and follow my dreams enough to where, I have some kind of accolade. I've scarred the earth. There's, I made some kind of impact, and I'm extremely feel blessed and very lucky to be able to say that. And I owe a lot of that to the support of my friends and my family, for sure.
Because it's funny, there's something that comes along with that, like what we were just talking about, involvement and support with your family and friends and whatnot, is that I try to explain to people a lot of times, because a lot of times rock and roll and heavy metal and whatnot there's always some sort of like rebellion intertwined in with the message or whatever. And I said, the only thing I didn't really have to rebel against was my parents, which is the oddest thing. You know what I mean? It's like I had to rebel against the kids that bullied me as a kid when I was in grammar school.
Me too.
Yeah, I was the fat kid with the bowl cut, reading Hit Parader on the playground, But so like I never had to associate it with this kind of, I got to hide this from my parents or whatever. But it's funny how like just music and rock and roll, heavy metal, whatever in general, it feeds into that rebellious side of you, no matter where it's coming from, that almost kind of instills you with some kind of strength.
Yeah. Well, there's something to say about that. It was your thing. I have this thing that I always say that, like, if you love music, and above all, some other kind of music, it doesn't matter that it's rock and roll, but since we both are well neck up into it,
mm-hmm.
The songs that speak to you are your friends, and you can, let's pretend you get shipwrecked and you don't have your record collection with you. Well, let's say you get saved 20 years later and you finally hear your favorite songs again on the radio, or you buy the record again, or you're reestablishing your fandom, and you still know all the words. You imagine what your basement smells like. You can smell, you can taste, you know all the words already. It's like a baby or a young child, a toddler memorizing the primary colors,
Right.
And then growing up later on, if someone says the word red, you already know in your brain what that is. Well, that's programming. So music is the same way. Your brain is going to react, after not hearing your favorite song for 20, 30 years, you hear the song again and you know all the words, and you can imagine where you were. That some people know the date and that they got it for their 8th birthday, or they, who gave it to them, what cake they had that day for the birthday, all of these
mm-hmm.
things. There's something strong about that. And it's just the way our brains work. It really is just the way our brains work. But it's a beautiful thing that we're lucky to be able to have that song that talks to us. Now, what I was going to say is like, the songs that don't speak to you should be easy to ignore.
Elaborate on that a little more. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, if you're shopping for groceries and songs come over the loudspeaker while you're shopping,
Mm-hmm.
It's not always, canned music or Muzak or whatever. Sometimes it's a radio station. Sometimes it's even a rock radio station.
Right.
I mean, I don't listen to the fucking radio, but I'll tell you, if a cool song comes on while I'm shopping for soup and bread and eggs, I'll go, wow, all right, I hadn't heard that in a while. I love that, But then I don't remember any of the other songs that come on.
That's so true, because I was actually eating lunch with a friend of mine at this little burger joint in Atlanta one year, a few years back, and we were sitting there and some Crew came on, and then all of a sudden, some Ozzy came on, and then a Dangerous Toys. Yeah. And I was like, where's this music? I literally went to the bartender, and I was like, who's playing this music? He was like, oh man, it's me. I'm playing it off my iPod. And I was like, man, the horns up, fist bump, whatever, dude. I said, I love the fact that you're playing this music at a public establishment at lunchtime. You know what I mean? It was but it was such a cool vibe. I didn't want to leave.
Yeah, that guy was speaking to you, and you didn't even know that he was speaking to you.
Yeah.
It wasn't Hairnet Radio, and it wasn't Sirius, and it wasn't Hair Nation, and it was some guy that just had a bunch of songs on his phone or whatever, plugging it into the PA at work so he could get through the fucking day.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'd even told him, I said, if you keep it going, man, I'll stick around for another hour or so. And he goes, I'm off the clock in 20 minutes. And he left the thing plugged in, and we had beers together afterwards, and I was like, that's a powerful thing, man. That's a powerful thing,
Yeah, that's tribal.
So what is the song or album? Because I love that you talked about that. Like, if a song talks to you, or a band talks to you, or an album talks to you, what is there one in particular that you kind of look at and go,
no, that's impossible for me to do, because there's like AM Gold, there's like old one-hit wonder songs that I remember that I fell in love with when I was very, very young, that would just come on AM radio.
Mm-hmm.
AM radio for me in the 70s was, I would hear Elton John and Alice Cooper and Queen on the fucking radio and just go ape shit. But then there was all this one-hit wonder stuff, that I can't even remember the name of the band, that, they were on all the KTEL records or something, and it was, that band Hot Chocolate, or, the Silvers, or whatever. There's a bunch of old, like just one-hit wonder things that I don't even right now, but when it comes on, that thing happens in your brain, that we just talked about.
Yeah. So it's like the song itself,
it literally,
is a trigger.
That's right, and it could be anything, man. It could really just be anything.
Young Jason. So I love how we kind of connected on this. Like you said, you were agreeing with me. You're like, oh, me too. Like, so were you kind of in that same boat with me? Like the kind of dorky rock metal kid who kind of got picked on and shit, and like.
Yeah. I was a little bit of a loner. I hung out with the nerds and the hippies and the freaks, and some of them were a little bit further along mentally and more, I was different, so I hung out with the different people. Some of the jocks were friendly to me, but there was always an element of different, groups of people, and growing up, that for whatever reason they would talk shit to you, they would pick on you, they would bully you, they would beat you up for fun, and that's the way they were having fun. It's like, well, what kind of fucking life are they gonna have, but I don't really think about them, and I'm not didn't really scar me much, but it does come up every once in a while. Made me wonder why that was such a big deal to them, that even though I was obsessed with Kiss enough to wear a different Kiss T-shirt to fucking school every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's my if that's the problem you have with me, I don't understand how they slept at night.
Oh yeah, I mean, Twisted Sister was mine. Like I was literally, I used to literally wear a Twisted Sister pin on my uniform, just like in the video. You know what I mean? And like, I just remember thinking, like, so you don't like me because I'm fat and I listen to weird music that's music that's weird to you, like.
Yeah, that's.
Why are you beating me up for that?
Yeah, what are your standards? What is wrong with you that you think that's that I'm now a target because that I'm the enemy or something? Yeah, and it makes me think about maybe the way they were raised. Maybe they were angry at you because they weren't able to listen to rock music in their house or dress however they wanted to dress. They had to dress and be the person their parents wanted them to be. Because I feel bad for people sometimes, when, they're forced to get straight A's and you're going to play on the football team, but you're not going to, you're going to be the quarterback. And if you're not going to get the quarterback position, I'm going to kick your ass when you get home from school.
Exactly. You see,
it's like, you're going to join the Army, but just know that I'm expecting you to be the general one day, and if you're not, I'm going to kick your ass.
And then there's always that idea of like conformity too, because I think probably the same as when you were a kid. At least when I was younger, I mean, we're not too far off in generations though, but that kids conformed because they wanted to be part of a majority and not a minority. And then you had people like you and I who were just like, I think the way you guys dress looks stupid. Like, I don't want to wear Benetton shirts and hypercolor clothing. I want to wear my Twisted Sister shirt on the field trip, and my Kmart tennis shoes and my Kmart jeans because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, isn't it kind of interesting that for the most part, our generation is dressing down and not up? I mean, it's funny the things you just said. Hypercolor. I mean, the guys in Poison and Bon Jovi and Kiss and that whole like 80s and early 90s sort of turn of the coin of rock band clothing. I mean, David Lee Roth, whatever, they were anybody glam, that was hypercolor. Everyone was just bright and chartreuse and hot pink and it was kind of like synonymous with rock music to be this loud, vomited color swatch, and now, I don't really feel like Dangerous Toys was in that game. There was always some denim and leather and combat boots and things like that. And, Guns N' Roses also had that too. They were not necessarily glammed out all the time.
Right.
They were loud enough in the way that they dressed, but, Aerosmith used to do that. They were kind of loud in the way they dressed, but it wasn't what I'm talking about with Poison and Bon Jovi and Kiss. When Kiss took the makeup off, Paul Stanley was wearing some atrocious shit.
Oh my god!
And I just saw, he's doing. Kiss is trying to follow a trend that Poison and Bon Jovi have started, and it was really weird that the zoo turning into the zookeeper. It's pretty weird, and I don't know. I think that dumbing down the fact that what I was getting at is the fact that we're just PIBs now. We're people in black, and that's fine. But isn't it funny how we dumb down our color fashion, and the whole world looks at us and thinks that we're different. Oh, you're a headbanger. Oh, you wear all black all the time. You must be some kind of musician or in the business, or what's your deal? Because you're black all the time. I don't understand it. I don't know if there's some kind of problem that we have as a genre of rock fan that just wears black all the time, but I mean, everybody I know who's into the things that I'm into, they wear black all the time. My main thing is just makes it easier to do laundry.
Oh yeah, I mean it's so funny because I look back at pictures of myself from when I was in high school. Yeah, I sent you that picture of me wearing the Dangerous Toy shirt when I was in high school, and then me, like, obviously my fashion sense has not changed from the time I was 15 to now, because again, it's easy, it's me, it's natural. I mean. Because I remember, I was into bands like Poison and Enough's Enough and stuff like that. But what I remember the issue being was I would look at them, I'd go, but y'all are like really pretty, man. Like I'm kind of goofy looking and I have scraggly hair and I'm not cool. And then all of a sudden, here comes Dangerous Toys and here comes Junkyard and Circus of Power. You know what I mean? I'm going, okay, now I can do that. You know what I mean? No offense, but you know what I mean? Like
somewhat regular dudes. If I'm kind of quoting Lemmy here. Lemmy said something like, if you can look good, if you can pull off the lipstick and the teased hair and the feather boa and look really good doing it and fucking own that shit where people like take notice and don't think that it's that weird because it becomes you. Fucking good luck. And Lemmy was like, I can't do that. I would look ridiculous doing that. I can't. I would be uncomfortable in my own skin doing that. But and he was particular to Pussycat and Poison and the bands that are actually doing that actually look pretty good doing it. And he was very liberal to that. He was very open-minded to that. He never really, this hyper-intelligent, weird book nerd turned scraggly Jack Daniels swigging, chain-smoking motor man, And when you think about it, he was always that. And to hear him say, hey, man, whatever, do whatever, be whatever you want to be, man. I'm me, and you need to go be you. Don't look at me and just try to be me,
Right.
So it was awesome to hear him just be as liberal and open-minded as anybody probably should be when you're talking about rock and roll. If you're specific to one thing and then you go out and talk shit about the people that are not like you, that's a sign of ignorance, and you just haven't really grown up yet. And I used to be there, and I used to be that guy.
Well, I used to too, because when I was just gonna say that, because looking back on when I would especially 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, oh my God, I feel so oppressed by the jocks and whatever, but whenever they would walk by us, we'd go, fucking meatheads. You know what I mean? So it's like we were doing the same shit, so it's like at some point, we're as guilty as they are for pinning them for who they are, where we're like, how dare you pin us for being ourselves? You know what I mean? Like, it was just...
Yeah, that's adolescence, man. You're freaking out because your hormones are doing things to you, and you don't know what's cool yet. You think it's okay to wear your Batman pajamas to school. You don't know yet. And so, you have to figure that out, and as soon as you start figuring it out, and man, I work with kids because I'm a teacher, and they wear board shorts and sandals, and they don't give a shit, and they play video games and da 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 da. But then you're their teacher fucking 5, 7, 9 years later, and you've watched them become a young adult, and you can pinpoint the day they start worrying about their hair and their clothes.
That was a great segue into that, because that was something else I want. Is about you being a teacher. Like, how did that come about, and what made that interesting to you as far as like pursuing that?
Well, that's easy. That I'll kind of answer it backwards. I needed a fucking job. I always needed a job. I mean, I was at the time. I mean, it was 2005 when my boss called me to hire me as a vocal coach for the School of Rock.
Mm-hmm.
and I'd never taught before. So there was that. I was going, what the fuck? Oh man, I can't do that. How do you do that? And he was like, don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. I had to figure it out. You'll figure it out. And I was like, wow, that, you know, he believed in me. He knew I could do it, you know, just because of the kind of person I was. So you'll figure it out, man. And here I am 14 years later. But anyway, he called me and hired me to do that. And I was working in a guitar store, and I was working at a record store. So at one point I had 3 jobs. Wow. Until I had so many students, I had to quit the others.
Which has got to be kind of cool, because not only being a teacher and spreading music, which is obviously something you're passionate about, it also must keep your ear to the ground as far as the current changes in the music.
Actually, it does. It does just a little bit, and it's a performance-based program. I mean, we don't teach kids to put on shows. We put on shows to teach kids.
Exactly.
You know, we're saving rock and roll one kid at a time. These are actually the school's kind of like selling, you know, mantra. And you know, you have a weekly lesson, but you also have a weekly rehearsal, and you're expected to you know, loosely master your guitar parts, your bass part, your drum parts, your vocal parts, memorize them, make a map, etc. Just like it is when you're expected to be able to perform, you know, on stage and have all that stuff. You need to know all that shit for rehearsal. You need to turn in your homework when you go to regular school. It's the same fucking thing.
Right.
So as soon as you realize that that's how life works, is like the garbage doesn't take itself out. The song doesn't sing itself, you know?
Right.
Someone wrote that song. Someone had to learn that song. Someone had to go sing that song for you to understand what the hell is going on. So it's a huge deal to be able to give some back. 14 years. Love it.
That's amazing. Well, you know, because something I wanted to ask you to backtrack just a little bit when you were talking, you know, when we were talking about kind of growing out of our phases of dorkdom, which we kind of still live in. Actually, we never really grew out of it. We just aged and kept it, you know? Like, yeah. But when Dangerous Toys hit, and like I said, most people my age, you know, when Dangerous Toys hit, it was, you know, Tease and Please. And the first time I saw that video, I looked at you guys and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, man! Like, I can dress like that and play music. When you guys started to kind of pick up momentum and stuff, was there ever an element where, and again, this is, you know, a be honest if you want or whatever, but, you know, was there ever an element where your ego inflated a little bit or whatever, or did you always just kind of feel like that same kid who was just getting to live the dream that he always wanted to?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I think I'm blessed and lucky to have been supported enough to, you know, and be into it enough and get in the garage and make noise with my friends enough to turn that into a regular thing. So much so that, you know, I was building up a name and meeting new people and starting new projects. And as soon as you get some kind of, even if it's a small fan base, the lip service, you know, the people just talking about it is how you get the next gig and the next gig and the next gig. And next thing you know, you're in a band for a very short time that ends up blowing up. And that would have been Dangerous Toys.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, was that of all the bands that you had done in previous projects, like I said, even like with Watchtower and whatnot, what was it about Dangerous Toys that do you feel like when you did Dangerous Toys, was that something right away that you thought, okay, this is going to be the band, or was it kind of a surprise to you?
It was a surprise because even in the band that I was in almost a full decade, right up to the point where I had to quit that band, and that band would have been Watchtower.
Right.
You know, we had a record out. We had been writing and getting ready to make another record, and I started moonlighting with Dangerous Toys on the side. And 6 months later, Columbia wanted to sign Dangerous Toys. So I'm in this band, I've cut my teeth as a singer. I learned all this shit about being a real musician and how songs are written in this band Watchtower. And I really, really had, come up through the underground and was well respected by all of these, by the new style of sort of thrash metal, like this whole new thing that we had been doing since high school, started in 82. And then all of a sudden I'm in this project that I don't really care much about, just doing covers, and sure, we wrote a few cock rock songs and whatever. And next thing you know, somebody from LA is like going, yeah, you guys are great. I want to sign you and put you on MTV and put you on the road and get you in the studio and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? So I spend my whole life dedicated to this one thing. And then this total accident, I start playing with these other dudes, and 6 months later, you want to give me a bag of money. It's fucking weird. Life is strange.
It totally is, and it's very like serendipitous in that way too, and how things like that work. Because like you guys went from being signed to hitting the road. I mean, you guys toured hardcore for years.
Yeah.
What was, in your opinion, what was your favorite tour that you did? And if you don't mind saying, like, what was your least favorite?
I don't really have a least favorite. Any tour, coming home from any tour. I mean, it's nice maybe if you're exhausted to come home, but after you're home for a few days, you miss it. You don't even know how to act. It's like getting back on land after being, on a boat or on a spaceship, I would imagine.
Right.
You're used to living out of a suitcase,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. But as far as like a highlight tour for you, I mean, I would imagine Operation Rock and Roll would have been up there for you.
Bingo.
Being with Alice Cooper. I mean, Alice Cooper,
bingo.
Motorhead, Priest, I mean, like that had to be the one if I had to guess.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about that the last time. That was such an amazing tour. We don't want to dwell too much on that, but with you being such a huge Cooper fan, I've always wanted to ask you, what's your favorite Coop album?
Oh man, that's a hard one. Maybe Killer. Love It to Death. God, it's really hard. Welcome to My Nightmare. Somewhere in there, there's probably, I could put together a greatest hits record that I probably could put on repeat and listen to that for 6 months.
Oh, yeah. Mine was Killer, by the way. That's why I love that you named that first, because that was the...
That's a good one, man.
Yeah, I even found myself delving into his earlier, their earlier Zappa shit, like the Pretties for You and stuff. That was some weird shit, but for some reason, as I got older, it got cooler, Yeah,
well, it's weird on purpose. It's great. They were changing the way people thought about rock and roll. I mean, the Beatles were kind of like, borrowing from old rock and roll. And I think Alice is way into that. He's into Elton John and Beatles and stuff like that. But I think that when he was breaking out and doing this really weird stage show, I think that he wanted his music to be bizarre as well. And then he figured out a way to sort of straddle the line like everybody else.
Oh, yeah. My wife took me to see Alice Cooper, actually, for my birthday about 6 years ago. And I haven't missed an Alice Cooper tour since Trash. That was the first time I ever saw him. So I haven't missed a tour since. But she went with me one time to see him. And the first thing she said after the show was, I'm surprised how many of the songs I knew. I was like, yeah, because... his songs are classic. They're classic rock. Like, if you've ever listened to classic rock radio, you've heard, No More Mr. Nice Guy, $1 Billion Baby, School's Out, whatever.
Yeah.
And she was impressed. She said, I knew like more than half the show. Which I loved, because she had a blast too. Yeah. She was like, he was amazing, and I was like, that was always the beauty behind Alice, was that, he had this thing that was very kind of that kind of shock opera kind of thing, but at the same time,
Oh yeah.
like you said, he found that line that he could straddle and say, I'm going to make some good music too. To not just be freaky music, So speaking of, we mentioned Rocklanta a little earlier. Did you have a good time, man? Because it was great seeing you guys again after so long.
Yeah, that was a good time. It was important to us. We also, kind of didn't know how it was going to sort of, the new song we played. We didn't know how it was going to go over. Not that matters, or we were that concerned about it, but we weren't even nervous or anything about playing new material.
Right.
3.5 minutes, it's over with. It's interesting when you think about everything I just said and then go, 3.5 minutes and it's over. It's important to I think step outside the box a little bit and think about what you're doing there, and find a reason to not look at it as work and think of it as a celebration of something that we've created and we're a part of. I call it the class of '89. There were a lot of bands that are in the same sort of bracket as Dangerous Toys. Sure, they sold a few records, they have a couple of gold records, but they didn't quite sustain the massive hit like a Bon Jovi or whatever. Class of '89, there was a lot of there. You could also call it the coattail of Guns N' Roses,
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, obviously.
Dangerous Toys and Junkyard and Circus of Power, and there's 100 of them. Bang Tango. I think Faster Pussycat did pretty well. I think LA Guns did pretty well.
See, I always thought Faster Pussycat could have done just as well looking like you guys, because their songs kind of straddled that thing, but they were able to pull the image. They had the kind of Hanoi Rocks thing going on,
Yeah, but they were just in as far as like dollars, and awards and tours and money and Rolling Stone covers, you know what I mean?
Oh, right.
I think that those two bands were probably maybe even quite a bit bigger than what we were able to pull off and sustain. And the lineup changes, oh my God, that's the cool thing about the Toys. It's the same band that made the first record.
Oh yeah. Yeah, which I love that, it's like full circle, and to kind of go back to what you were talking about, the song, it was called Hold Your Horses. I was telling Mike after the show, I said, if I hadn't known Dangerous Toys and known that was a new song, it sounded seamless in there, which got me excited, and it got me to hoping that, wow.
Yeah, that's the good thing, is it sounds exactly like it could have been on the Pissed album.
Exactly. Yeah. So you actually made a comment during a show one time that I thought was kind of funny. It wasn't Rocklanta, but it was a show I had picked up online as something you guys were doing, I think in Texas or something. And you said something about that this is a song off the first album, and everyone cheered, and you were like, "'Cause it's the only good one we made." Like, do you believe that, or is that like always just kind of a joke with you because that's what everybody kind of thinks?
Well, that's right. I was throwing a rock at the people that think that's the only album that we have out.
Oh yeah. Because I always think to myself, Hellacious Acres was such an overlooked record. Like I was just like, there were
a lot of people feel that way. That's not, in my opinion, that's not our most shining moment at all. But I think that it's part of the the journey as a band. We're out on tour with the Cult, and basically the phone rings and management, and they're going, "Yeah, we need to pull you off the road. You guys need to go home and write songs." We're like, "Dude, are you looking at the numbers? We're still charting, and we're selling records, and we're on tour with the Cult, and it's going great, and yada yada yada." and they said, nope, the window is closing for your timing that you need to, you guys need the contractual obligation here. You guys got to go make another record. So I feel like we weren't ready to go make a record. About half the songs on Hellacious Acres, I think, are good songs.
That's interesting because, like I said, I really like that album a good bit. And I'm curious to hear from you which ones you think are the ones that you don't think are like up to par.
Well, I'll tell you the ones that we should be easy. The ones that, are still in the set sometimes are the good ones. But, there's some stragglers that we don't do. It's just, we don't really do ballads live. We just want to kind of, keep people moving as much as they can. So they're moved. But we, line them up, Sugar, Leather, and the Nail. These are not in any order.
Right.
Giving It the Lip, Best of Friends, Angel in You. But it used to be, it's rare, but it used to be in the set all the time, but Gunfighter. So it's Gunfighter, Lip, Line 'em Up, Sugar, Best of Friends, and what else did I? Angel in You. That's half the record. That's 6 songs.
Angel in You, I always thought was the coolest fucking song because of how it starts out with that. It's that slow. To me, that was almost like your Bon Scott moment. You know what I mean? Where it went from like that kind of slow groove into that fucking bombastic, like fast closing. I just love that.
Yeah. So the label tried to turn that into like this epic guitar solo jam on the record, and live we don't do that trade-off guitar solo thing between Danny and Scott. It's we augment it. We go right to we do the first section of the solo, and then we go into the breakdown. And no one even notices that or even asks us about it. But when you listen to the version on the record, it's like a 7-minute song, and there's this fucking guitar battle going on that's kind of like something put out by Leonard Skinner or something,
which was almost kind of the antithesis of what you guys were doing, because it was like you guys kind of had this almost a punk mentality at times to your songs, because at the longest some of them were like 4 minutes. You're talking 3-minute 12-second songs for the most part, with a 4.5 minutes being a long song. And as much as I enjoy it, like I always wanted to hear that one live, because I was like, I'd love to hear that one done, But
we really only write 3 kinds of songs anyway, and most of them are the same tempo. So it's either a straight headbanger, or it's that's never very fast, and then there's a shuffle, Sport in the Woody, Give Me No Lip, whatever.
Right. Yeah. So was Feel Like Making Love, was that like a record company push?
That's an easy one to answer. We were messing around with that in rehearsal one day, and we were in pre-production, and we were just fucking around with that. And the producer Roy was like, we're putting that on the record. That sounds great. I'm like, what? We're just fucking around, dude. Nope, you fucked up. We're putting that on the record. I was like, well, we just kind of looked around, and there wasn't really we didn't really have a bad attitude about it. We didn't, and people fucking love that version. They really, really like it, and I don't understand to this day how it really made the record, other than we fucked up by playing it in a rehearsal, and the producer said, yeah, you don't need to record that.
You're like, God, why weren't we doing like TNT or something, or like whatever.
Well, no, I think that would have been a little bit typical. A lot of bands that cover AC/DC on their record.
I think so too, because I think what made
nothing wrong with that
was that it sounded like you guys. Do you know what I mean? Like it didn't sound like, oh my God, they're stepping so far out of the bounds that it's that.
No, we made it work. We actually did. We actually made it higher. We jacked it up a little bit. It's actually like a whole step higher. So when it gets up into the chorus, in the shed. We are actually, in my range a little bit more,
So one of the other things, because there's only just a couple more things I want to talk to you about. And by the way, thanks again for doing this, dude. I appreciate you talking, man. This is fun, man. This is so much fun for me. But anyway, I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you too is that being asked to audition for not only Pantera but for Skid Row. I'm sure a lot of people are trying to figure out like how would that have sounded. Like, were those pretty hard no's for you at the when you were approached for those, or was it kind of like, man, I'm tempted to do this?
Well, sometimes I kind of regret that, and that I didn't even try, that I didn't even accept the offer to audition, because that's all it was. I never let it go any further than that.
Right.
And I was committed to where I was at the time, and the first time was when was that? Shit, it was a long time ago, man.
Now was that pre-Anselmo that you were at? I'm guessing it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They hadn't even gotten into their Anselmo yet. I mean, the things that happened at that point to rock music, when you kind of put a timeline on it, I mean, that's fucking crazy. The Skid Row thing I know was 93, 94.
Okay.
Yeah, we had just made a new record. I think we had just made Pissed. Yeah, and I think that's when that was, and it's hard for me to the Pantera thing. 86, 80, yeah, 87. I had 86, 87. I had just replaced a guitar player in Watchtower.
Uh-huh.
And was about to get busy with that. So I thought, but those were my guns I was sticking to. And, first, Mr. Abbott is what I call him. Vinny and Daryl's dad called me.
Uh-huh.
And I declined, and I got a call 2 weeks later from Vinny. And again, I had to respectfully decline.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's funny because a year and a half later or something, Pantera was coming through and they were doing clubs, and they had just opened for Skid Row.
Oh yeah.
And that's ironic. Yeah. And, well, is that when that was? 92?
That would have been
it was
91, 92, I think.
No, dude, it was 89.
Well, they might have opened up for
90.
them. Well, because I know they did. I know Skid Row did their first arena tour in as headliners for Slave to the Grind, and that was 91, 92.
No, this is before that. That.
Okay.
Anyway, Pantera was doing
touring with them.
Pantera was doing clubs, and they were doing clubs, and they were opening for people.
That makes okay.
And they had done, they had a bunch of stuff with a bunch of different people. But I remember they did some shows with Pantera. It was the Cowboys from Hell. Anyway, they came through town, and I ran into Vinny, and I went backstage and met Phil for the first time.
Uh-huh.
And he was a Watchtower fan. So, he and his buddies in New Orleans, they knew all about Watchtower and early thrash metal and stuff like that. So,
do you look back on it and kind of think man, I mean, that the whole direction or scope of Pantera may have changed if you had taken that gig? It very well could have just, or do you think they were kind of set in their ways as far as where they were going?
I don't know. I mean, I think that the universe took care of itself. I think that the things that happened to Pantera, as far as Phil joining the band, were supposed to happen. I think that they took over the world and created a new style of like fucking super heavy power metal. And I think that they once again were a band that were able to figure out how to straddle the line, because, you know, basically Pantera was doing what Dangerous Toys was during the time that Dangerous Toys should have been doing that.
Right.
But for whatever reason, they weren't even a band. I mean, Dangerous Toys consisted of a different lineup, and they were doing covers, and they had some originals, but they were not looking to get signed. They were just a working band, you know. And Pantera was the same thing. They just they ended up getting some kind of record deal. Their dad had a studio. They had like 3 or 4 records out before they even got Philip in the band.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I knew about Pantera, but I was in a thrash metal band, and they were this glam band out of Dallas area. You know, it's like, man, you know, that's cool. And the next thing you know, I'm not in a thrash band anymore. Pantera turns into a thrash band, and I'm in a fucking glam rock band. So, see what I mean? Is the whole thing is very strange. And
again, another oddly like serendipitous thing, though, because, you know, things went. It's almost like you said, the universe kind of took care of it, you know. But then,
yeah, there's not really any way to get to. You can't change what that sounds or feels like. It's just terrible that those guys are gone now.
Oh.
Those Abbott brothers. It's so sad.
Way too young. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, I still don't understand how Vinny died. I mean, he fucking went in his sleep. I just don't understand. You know, his heart gave out while he's sleeping. What a jip. I mean, I guess that's a peaceful way to go, but well, I don't you forget how fragile it all is. I mean, the human body is an amazing machine, and it's tough as a motherfucker, but you don't realize how easy it can just fucking happen to you. Just boom.
Yeah.
Gone.
And he was a pretty hard liver. I mean, you know, he definitely lived for the moment and was definitely a partier, and, you know, he had his fun, you know, but like you said.
Well, yeah, I mean, the things that should have killed you didn't. And I'll tell you this right now, Keith Richards still living.
Someone just posted on Facebook today a picture of Keith Richards like hanging off of a balcony drinking a beer in the morning. And they were just like, oh, yeah. They were like, he is still alive, and he passed his physical for the tour. Mick Jagger is in like top shape. He failed his physical. I was like, that's
Mick is
crazy.
That's a bummer about Mick. Yeah,
I know.
He needs an operation or something.
Well, dude, I guess to close out, one of the things is that, you know, Rocklanta was a blast. Getting to see you guys after, you know, for so long after '94 was amazing. I got my Dangerous Toys shirt again, and I'm a happy guy. But I got a new song, so are we gonna hear some more Toys? Are we gonna maybe see a new life out of this, or is this just kind of be like it's been for the past?
Well, here's the good with the bad. The good is, you know, somewhat inevitable that even if we, you know, can't muster up an album's worth of material, we will be recording the new material that we think is worthy and putting it out on at least iTunes or some kind of cool special vinyl release or something.
Right.
So, you know, I really like the song "Hold Your Horses." I think it came together really well. I think we got a decent response out of it. I feel like it should already be recorded and on iTunes and on people's playlists somehow, some way, in order to garner some more attention. So when we do play it live, they're going, "Oh, cool! They played horse." You know, people know it already, instead of trying to digest it when they know they're about to hear "Tease and Pleasing" right after it, and they got a hard on for that. So
I've already been looking
I
for
don't
like
know.
bootleg versions of it, on YouTube or whatever.
I saw it today. I saw it today on YouTube.
Oh, okay, so it did make it. Okay, great. So see, there you go.
If you type in "hold your horses, dangerous toys," it comes up right away.
That's what you're talking about, man. Like,
yeah, and it's not too bad, No,
man, I thought it was great though. But what about touring? Is Dangerous Toys is kind of like not a touring machine anymore?
Well, we used to be, but we can't do it anymore because and fans don't want to hear this shit. I get it. They want to hear, fuck yeah, man, we're going to take over the world tour, bro, fuck yeah, but we're not 19 anymore. And we make better money to feed our faces and our families with by not going on the road, because it's so sketchy because of the internet sort of killing the industry by way of people are, there's always someone younger than you and prettier than you that can play for free, and people can just watch it on YouTube, so they don't buy concert tickets anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's a bummer, man. But gosh, man, I'm glad I had the opportunity to see you guys when I did. But I mean, if I want to see Dangerous Toys again, like, how many shows do you guys do a year? I guess I'll just have to make my trek out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, unless the phone rings from somebody out near you, because we do fly-in dates. We don't just play Texas. I mean, we're in Colorado in a few weeks.
Oh, that's great. That's all. Well, I'd love to see you guys come back, especially again, like I said, with some new material in the books. Again, to kind of close out with you and me talking about being dorks, there's always going to be dork fans like me who are going to say, as much as I love the new stuff, as much as I love the classics, I do want to hear new stuff. I want to hear what Dangerous Toys is doing in 2019. Like, I want to hear something fresh, because I know I'm going to get teased and pleased, and I know I'm going to get scared, and I know I'm going to get, outlaw, whatever, but I'd love nothing more than to hear something new, because to me, that excites me as a fan. Well,
the plan is to keep writing. We'll see what happens, but we don't live next door to each other anymore. It's a bit of an ordeal to try to get together, but we're making it happen. Well, we don't have one song. We have more than one song, so don't worry about that.
Well, I can't wait to hear them, man, and I think it's going to be great to hear some new DT stuff, man, without a doubt. So,
thanks. That's something to look forward to for us as well.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for doing this again. Like I said, I know we just did it, but this was really a lot of fun. I really just wanted to kind of do this as a one-on-one with you to kind of get to know you. It's one of the things it's the dork in me, you know what I mean, that wants to know about some of the people I admire the most. And I appreciate you being open with me.
Sure, no problem, dude.
Thanks a lot, Jason. I appreciate your time, man, and I hope you have a great day.
Dude, you as well. Talk soon, okay?
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.